Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is that time once... I'm done doing that stupid voice. Welcome back to the It's a Mimic podcast. This is going to be the last of our Call of Cthulhu Deep Dark of Radiance episodes. If you notice by the little tease there, we are planning on doing something more in the future. Once Adam and I and the rest of the team have a chance to rest and catch back up with what's going on in the real world, because these episodes have been fun but have been a lot of work. So we're really thankful that you all like them. We've been loving the response we're getting so far, but I just wanted to give you guys one last little taste of the campaign, and that will come today in the form of a Q&A that the players and I sat down after all was said and done and talked about the campaign, talked about each other and our experiences with Call of Cthulhu and role-playing in general. So this is the Eulogy episode, meaning it is the last episode of this series, but it is not the last episode of Call of Cthulhu in general on the It's a Mimic channel. Keep your ears open and your eyes peeled for any sort of notifications there. But anyways, we're just going to dive right into it. Again, guys, coming from my perspective here as the editor and keeper of arcane secrets, I really loved this process. It was a stretch for me as a DM, and I'm loving the fact that you guys have all just kind of gobbled this up. Anyways, thank you, and on with the show that I like to call The Deep Dark of Radiance. Welcome to the It's a Mimic podcast. My name is DM Dan. This is the last episode of our Call of Cthulhu game, the Deep Dark of Radiance. We are all done, we're all wrapped up, and we wanted to kind of sit down and have a episode where we all kind of gave our thoughts of the system, gave our thoughts of the game. We have quite a wide range of experience around this table. Around the table here with me are Terry, who played Detective Martin Noir. Martin Jean-Claude Noir? No,
Martin Claude Noir.
Just the Claude Noir, the aged detective that seemed to actually survive, although getting gutted in the first episode.
Did close to death several times.
Several times, yeah. Next to Terry is Megan, who played Dirty, a late addition to the campaign, and the first one to actually die as well. So
you're welcome. Spoiler alert.
Thank you.
This is the end. If you haven't listened to the rest of the podcast yet,
Megan dies.
Megan dies. But spoiler alert, we're talking about the whole breadth of this campaign, all 8 episodes, 9 episodes, however many it's going to pan out to be. And so if you haven't listened, go back, listen, then come back and listen to this one. This will be the last episode in this little mini-series that we're doing. Across the table from me and next to Megan is Adam, who you all know from the podcast. He played Moses T. Ripley, Rip for short, who is one half of Rip and Gun. He played the now dead half of Rip and Gun, whereas the breathing yet still insane half of Rip and Gun was played by intern Dave, who I will give his time now and actually say he's playing, what was the full name? Gunther the Hunter? Did you ever come up with a last name for him?
Yeah, the Hunter.
Oh, his last name was the Hunter.
It is now.
Okay,
yes.
Cool. And then beside Dave is Miaca, who played Charity Flanagan of the North Carolina Flanagans, and also her big bag of money, which some lucky soldier is now walking away with. So guys, thank you so much for playing with me.
Phrasing, by God.
Playing in this campaign with me. Fuck.
Were we allowed to call phrasing this whole time?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't aware. We would have done it.
All the time.
That's what we do. I
just kinda
did
steamroll
barely
through
any sex tapes.
Yeah, I just sit here and give Dan the look. and see if I can derail it.
This is why next time we're running a campaign like this, we're not sitting across the table from each other. I don't
will
want
sit
to look
beside
up.
you so I can whisper in your ear.
I don't want the first thing I see when I look up from my notes to be your face. It's just not conducive to appropriate.
Terry, you see what I put up with on a weekly basis?
You deserve every bit of it.
Yeah, you really do.
Listen,
Anyways,
you're not getting paid at this point.
so guys, I just want to ask, how did everyone feel about the game now that's all over? So, what are your thoughts?
Generally, broad strokes, I thought it was good. Okay, before we go any further, here's my problem.
Professional podcaster, ladies and gentlemen.
Here's my problem with this question. There are 22 questions, and the first one is, how do you feel about the game? That can't be answered without answering the other questions.
There's 26 questions, Terry.
Exactly.
So we'll get to it later? Is that what you...
Well, yes and no, because I do have some comments that I kind of came up with that were very different from the other.
I think this is more about like a general. Generally, how did you feel about the game? Because like this is most of our first time playing Call of Cthulhu.
I'll tell you how I felt without touching on any of the other subjects. Is that what you're asking me to do?
Oh, touch on the other subjects. I don't care if you touch the other subjects.
You touch whatever you
Phrasing,
want.
guys!
This is better. I like this.
I thought it was great. I love the vulnerability of the game that the player characters had, and I love the legit horror that comes from that feeling of vulnerability, and I love the darkness of it, and I loved not feeling like a superhero everywhere I went. I don't need that. I don't need to feel like I'm the biggest, baddest person. I need to feel like I'm coming as close to death as possible all of the time for it to feel real. Otherwise, what are we doing?
Fair enough. Yeah, you can't really have a horror game without the threat of death looming.
It's harder in other
characters,
systems.
right?
It's harder in D&D because you're just a freaking superhero. It's going to take 4 rounds before you go down. So
Yeah.
I gotta say, this is the first time I've played really any game since, I don't know, Silent Hill, Resident Evil 2, like the 90s, where I felt legitimately scared for my character and I felt like I was in a horror movie.
it does have that Silent Hill feel to it.
Yeah, it really does. That, like, just beyond your vision, horrid shit is happening.
Yeah, it's bad camera
Silhouettes,
angles
all that kind of
in
stuff,
Dan's
yeah.
descriptions.
Bad camera angles. And in the distance, you see and you hear.
Nothing, because for some reason the camera is facing you.
Why am I dying? Why am I dying? Why am I dying?
Shoot down?
Oh, right, a zombie dog.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was really well done. I liked how we kind of had like consistent build-up all the way through. Characters actually got to know each other a little bit. I discovered who my character was through interactions with.
On like the
others.
4th or 5th episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're not used to role-playing in your role-playing games.
It's combat heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're mainly tactical war games with like the ability to do role playing if you really feel the need. But yeah.
You're allowed to get a catchphrase in.
Sometimes.
Make a name for yourself, shall we say.
Let off some steam, Bennett. One of my favorite ones.
I would kind of say, like, I agree. I enjoy the storytelling aspect of the whole thing. My issue is I am not a strong role player. I'm just not. Just because I am more of an introverted role player, so I usually have to use different types of tactics to get myself into a story and into a character. So this one was a little bit harder for me from that aspect, especially since the game is built to be over a longer period of time. And I chose a character that kind of, her abilities were very structured to being a longer period of time. So we kind of had to retcon her abilities a lot, and so that was a little bit different for me, but overall, I like the idea, but I do kind of, the fact that it took place in the 1920s is also a bit of a struggle. I made a note about that as well, just because of trying to figure out what you have, what you don't have, items you can acquire, items you can't acquire, but overall, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Well, I'm used to seeing you play fighty characters in RPGs,
Yeah.
and you really weren't this time.
I tried something very different than what I normally would play, so that did kind of structure how I responded to the game style, but the percentile system and the mechanics of it, we'll get into that later, but that kind of played into how I played my character a lot, because it's very different than what I'm used to, so.
Well, Miaca, what do you think? Because
I
you were completely new to role playing in general, right?
so I pretty much agree with everybody.
You're not allowed to go last anymore. I know that's going to be your technique.
We'll go a little bit more into the fact that Miaca's a brand new player to tabletop games in general a little bit later, but just overall, how did you feel like coming into a room, sitting around at a table, role playing a character that's not you?
I was pretty scared because I didn't know what to do or what to expect, but like as the game went on, I got pretty comfortable and I was like really into the story because I like to write, so any type of storytelling I'm like really into, and
Awesome.
so it was nice to kind of like be a character in a story.
And I would say, despite the math, it's a very easy system to learn how to operate.
Yeah, the
It
math
was
is
deceptively
terrible.
easy to get
After
into.
you get over the fact that you have to do math, it's quite nice.
The character creation was the longest part. I thought. It was the hardest part. I thought it was going to be very difficult mathematically, which I'm not about. I like loosey-goosey systems like D&D 5e.
But it's very much a, just roll under the number that you've spent an hour
It's
figuring out.
comparative
before.
math. Which one is higher instead of add 3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah, but the character creation takes a while, and that was off-putting at first. But then once you get going, you're fine. You're set because there's no DC system like there is in D&D, so it's just the same number all the time.
that's actually a really good point. The other thing too that I think we all took for granted is we knew by the time that we rolled the dice and looked down, we knew before the game master, the keeper of arcane secrets, knew whether we succeeded or failed.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We knew. We didn't have to say, does a 17 hit? We knew if we succeeded or not. Right?
Yeah.
And so that's unique. It's something that I wasn't expecting.
You can almost respond as a character before the GM actually takes it from there, right?
Yeah.
It actually gives a lot of agency to the players as well, because you're the ones telling me you succeed, and then I've got to react as the Keeper of Arcane Secrets. I've got to react to your level of success.
There's the one.
There's the one.
Never takes long.
So aside from the game, how did you guys feel playing in a specifically horror genre?
Well, I freaking.
This is out to the group.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know, like, Adam, you and I share this deep love for the horror genre. Probably you a little bit more than me.
Oh, yeah, in a big way.
In a big way. So it was kind of you and me brainstorming that brought us to playing a Call of Cthulhu game. So
Well, that and Terry turning to me like a year ago and saying, "I've always wanted to get into the Lovecraft stuff," and I'm like, "I have a book. Read this book." And we started.
And I did.
And he did. Terry can read,
Yeah.
despite all appearances.
Can you now?
Yeah. I
What
started reading.
percentage do you have in knowledge?
I didn't. Joke's on you because I didn't bring my character sheet, Megan.
here's an
I
extra
don't
one.
know.
Start rolling.
So don't you stats me. What
I
does
didn't
that
bring
say?
dice
Oh.
either. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. As far as the horror genre goes, this is more conducive to horror, in my opinion. Yeah, I think you really got to lay it on thick for horror in D&D, whether it's undead or cosmic horror from beyond, portals
that-
opening and tentacles coming out. That doesn't scare me in D&D. I'm ready to fight that.
Yeah.
In this, that happens, and I'm just gonna throw
Yeah.
dynamite and run.
It's a threat of this was I found a much better system for horror because there's legitimate threat of death in D&D. Adam's right. It's like you can describe how scary something is, and some people get it, some people want it. Some people can be like, "Look, dude, I have 89 hit points. I can make an earthquake. It's fine. Let's hurry up. Let's go."
Oh, you're a vampire. Come on.
Oh, whatever. Banishment. Like it's fine.
It's true.
Well, and like creepy crows standing on rooftops. Well, your ranger's just gonna shoot it.
Not
It's the
gonna
glowing
exactly.
eyes, though, that get me.
Yeah.
But no, I liked it because, again, this game kind of gives you that ability to storytell in quite such a nice way. I do find that other times I've played in role-playing games that are specifically horror genre, though we usually play the ambiance when you're in a room playing with people, because we were recording a podcast, we didn't really have the opportunity to play music or have lighting or do like other things
Yeah,
like that.
and a lot of that is being added. Like the auditory ambience is going to be added afterwards.
Yeah, so
right?
like as a player, it's kind of like it's different playing it outside of the horror genre in your mind when trying to get your head in the fact that you are in a horror place.
Yeah, and it really depends on, and this is something that I think a lot of groups kind of, when you get into Dungeons and Dragons and get into other games, they don't do as well. You really have to rely on description.
Yeah.
For Call of Cthulhu and building into the horror genre. Like if you are not describing your awkward camera angles, then a little bit is lost, right? And I mean, you could fill the room with, mist and be lit by candle lights only, right? But
Oh my god, I need to bring a fog machine to D&D now.
yeah, right?
Can we?
We won't record that episode because every 10 minutes you'll just hear in the background.
If Dan didn't cough a lot before.
Yeah, right? That'll be the worst.
I can take up vaping. That helps.
Please don't. That's not something you should do.
Nobody
You
wants
look
to
like
know.
you vape.
Nobody
Yeah.
You
wants
look
to
like
know
you
the same
vape.
You
one.
look like you could be a vapor, but I'm just gonna say, please don't. That'll be my one mom
They have cool
moment. Just don't.
smells and stuff.
No, they're not cool.
What about the south half of the room?
Yeah, so south half of the room, what do you guys think? Playing in the horror genre?
I liked it. It was familiar, yet it was really foreign because I never played in this kind of setting before. I mean, I've got spent a lot of time watching horror movies. It's
Well, you worked in a haunted theme park with me.
and film.
We've made horror movies.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm not super familiar with Lovecraft, so that was kind of a nice swap on things. The thing that I really liked about it is I didn't care what the monster was. In D&D, which I've played too much of, I always know that it's a werewolf, I need silver. In this, it's a bad guy. I really have no idea what the heck I'm gonna do. And it was just, it kept it fresh. It kept it...
Did you feel like you were in over your head the whole time?
Oh yeah, big time. Big time.
These 7 guns I have probably won't do anything. Yeah.
Except to a nurse.
Literal heart.
That is pasted on the wall behind the body of your character.
Too soon.
But that is too soon, Daffod.
Yeah, there.
Miaca, what was...
Miaca, what about you?
It was scary.
Really? Because you spent most of it laughing.
No, I think that's a defense mechanism. Like she can't handle it, so she's laughing. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, it was it was really scary to me, and Dan, you did a good job of explaining things and with description and everything.
I confessed this to Adam. Mm-hmm. And I just want it out on the table now.
Oh god.
You were my gauge to how well I was doing for describing any sort of creepy or horror level thing. Because I would just look across the room and the level of which you retreated into yourself.
Yeah.
As I was explaining, I was like, okay, now I could go a little bit further with this. Okay, and there's the line, I'm done. Right? And what was it? Describing the body of the lead geologist strung across the cave entrance. Like you actually turned your chair and looked away from me. So I was like, okay, I've hit the line. When I started mentioning tendons being stretched across, you're like, nope, I'm done. Okay, we're good. The gore and the body horror of it really hit you. What about? I want to hit the fact that you are brand new to any sort of role-playing now. So, what, in general, from your perspective as a completely green tabletop role player, what was your perspective on it, and how have you proceeded from there? Because I'm to understand you've taken up 5th edition now and whatnot.
Well, at first it was pretty intimidating. There's a lot of rules and I had to act a certain way and stuff. But,
and speak up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not really good at the talking thing, so I'm usually the quietest person in the room. But I found it intimidating at first, but then as I said earlier, I got used to it. And yeah. What was the other question?
Well, just how have you proceeded from Call of Cthulhu? You've started playing 5th edition, you've started doing that, and well, I'll ask you a little bit later to compare and contrast them. Yeah. But how have you liked 5th edition and
I feel like 5th edition is it's more open. With this, things were kind of narrow, I guess, because we're dealing with the 1920s and one specific place. But with 5th edition, I can do anything and go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this was definitely more rigid. So yeah, thanks. I'm really glad you guys enjoyed the game. It did take a lot of work. I
did it.
It actually.
Did you actually prep for this?
I actually prepped for this.
And what was that like?
Honestly, it was a little bit of fun because I've got this big rolling whiteboard and I just went full Beautiful Mind on it. And I had the entire history of the Radiance Valley on one side, and then I because I knew we were going to be recording this, I broke down what my big beats in every single episode would be, which was null and void after episode 4 or episode 3, whatever one it was.
I was gonna say, when did we shatter that?
Yeah, no, it was episode 3 or episode 4.
We were supposed to go into that cave, right?
I wanted you guys to check out the cave, or at least get closer to the lead geologist, because you guys saw him from a distance and then noped.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right?
I wasn't going in there.
And I tried to add an external threat of the howling of the wolves to kind of push you
A
guys.
baleful howling.
I was gonna say, what kind of howl was it?
It was baleful. I hate you people.
You were torn between a baleful howl and viscera, so I didn't know where to go.
Well, I figure, Viscera is a very, it's not a very active threat. It is very passive. It's just there. It's observable.
If anything is saying don't come in here, it's spreading a body and viscera across, blocking the path into the cave. Something inside.
But do you think there's a difference between D&D and Call of Cthulhu? Because in D&D you sit there and go, well, that's 9/10 of a dead kobold in no particular order.
Yeah.
Let's go in.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right?
absolutely.
But in Call of Cthulhu you go,
I would forget that Dan even mentioned the body at the mouth of the cave.
Yeah.
By the end of the session.
You would trip over the rope getting in. Is
Yeah.
what would happen if you're playing D&D for sure.
Well, and you guys blew up the little outbuilding that was
Not the
there.
outhouse.
Not outhouse, outbuilding that was there that was spawning these worms, which was fantastic. And that's actually one of the things I would say I failed at, because I was like, here's a big old pile of dynamite, expecting you just to light the pile and go, and you're like, no, I'm going to store this. And
Yeah, we blew up everything.
everything got blown up.
that was a good nugget that you just dropped.
But honestly, it was really fulfilling. I even after you guys broke the mold and whatnot, we were fortunate where you guys broke the mold, and that was the last episode we were recording for that day. So I was able to pick it back up and figure out where we're going to go to next.
Okay,
and I had to actually plan that out and go and.
But I got a question for you on that vein. This was very railroaded. As much as we went off the path, you said you went beat by beat.
Yeah.
Was that because this was podcast format? You knew how many episodes and our release schedule, or was that like, does Call of Cthulhu lead you towards railroading as opposed to sandboxing? Which way do you feel?
It's definitely more open to a sandbox game, and most of that is just because of there are a lot of rules in the recovery side of Call of Cthulhu that require months of in-game time to pass. So anytime your characters are going to sit for months at a time to regenerate sanity or regenerate hit points or whatever it is, recover from major wounds, that is going to bring in a lot of sandbox aspect, because while one party member is sitting on the side, healing or recovering, the other two party members are out looking for other clues or doing something along those lines. So it does kind of lead and tend more towards sandboxing, in my opinion.
Was it a challenge then? Is that why we were so isolated?
That is one of the reasons why you guys were so isolated, and because isolation feeds into horror. Like, I wanted to give the idea that you guys were stuck, so you had to deal with it. So I did that very intentionally, both for my own management purposes, because as I've said on the podcast many a time before, I don't like to over prep. I like to kind of give room for the players to take narrative control of the story. I could not do that as much here, also because it's an audio format, right? And we were recording it, and I wanted it to have like conducive episodes with a cliffhanger that would draw people back every week or every episode, right? So it was a different form of planning, and it was definitely a challenge, but it was fulfilling at the same time.
Yeah, we couldn't focus so much on the mass necessarily. That had to be focused on the story.
No, and I had to change a couple of the rules from base Call of Cthulhu to fit that and make it a little bit more survivable for you guys. I know there's a lot of Call of Cthulhu loyalists out there who are listening in and going, "How do they have those 90 plus sanity points that Rip and Gun ended up with at the end of the campaign?"
I did not have that many at the end of the campaign.
Sorry, true. The start of the end of the campaign you did.
The start of the end of the campaign.
The start of the end of the campaign you had more than 90, but
a lot of role playing is mechanical based, and it's hard to do in an audio format, right?
Yeah, so I really had to pull back on that. So I do want to ask one other question for another person on the table, because we're talking fifth, we're talking Call of Cthulhu and how these are different forms of systems, but we have another system and experience with another system at the table that I wanted to draw on. So Dave,
Monopoly.
No, 3.5, and
okay.
The more mechanical 5th edition. So 3.5, Dave, you come directly from 3.5, which is where the math is far more intense and the system is far more unforgiving.
No kidding.
How does Call of Cthulhu compare to that for you?
Let me tell you, recently, since we started playing Cthulhu...
Cthulhu.
No, I'm doing it my way. Bitch.
That's an option. You can say that.
Always. To him, always. I've also recently started playing 5th edition, and I gotta say, I hate 3.5. It's terrible. I'm hating it. Now, that also might be because I'm playing a bard currently and I can't do anything because we're like level 2, but...
You're playing a bard in 3.5?
Yes.
That's why you hate 3.5.
Yeah, it's mind-numbing. I've got a little toy plastic flute that I got from the dollar store. I just sit there for half the session and try to make music on it. It's really just music practice at this point. But, I mean, Cthulhu is so much easier. That's the look I'm going for, Dad, right there. Cthulhu?
Cthulhu, yes. Don't hit that T so hard.
Right. So the one thing about Cthulhu that I really like better...
It sounds better than what you're saying.
I like it too.
I like it. I prefer
wrote Call of Kathy because I was...
Kathy just sounds like some middle-aged woman who works down the laundrette.
When I first started playing this, the 1/2 and the 1/5 values really confused the hell out of me. But I think it really made it a lot simpler. There isn't all of that math where we're adding +3 to this and I've got a morale bonus to that and my natural armor's this, so my AC is actually this, but this is a touch attack, so I'm this, and like it's just a math explosion.
Am I flat-footed? Am I not flat-footed?
Yeah, it's just it was so much easier. It was simple, and that allowed me to really stay in the game. It kept me engaged when it wasn't my turn, when I wasn't doing anything. The other thing is that we never had to stop to look up a rule. And that's one of my big things about 3.5 that really grinds on me.
Because if you're sitting down for a 4-hour session of 3.5, you're devoting an
hour and a half of that probably
is looking up grapple rules.
I've been playing for over 10 years and we're still looking up rules.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing after another. It was just streamlined. We could actually roleplay, and that's like we had said earlier, not where my background was, and that's kind of what I really liked about it.
Yeah, cool. Megan, you've got a lot of experience playing many systems and many different types of games and whatnot. But as Adam said earlier, you tend to play like a frontline fighting character. At least with us, you have in the past. How's it to play a straight up, full on non-combatant character in a world full of monsters?
Super uncomfortable.
The end next.
Yeah. No, honestly, it wasn't easy, especially in this kind of game format that was very roleplay heavy. There's a little bit of prep for my character that I probably felt like I could have done better, which I can get into detail into later, but when it came to being a non-combatant, you have to be more creative with your environment when it comes to doing certain things, and I just felt like there were moments where I was not able to address that the way I would want to. And then being a non-combatant just made things really, really scary because you're in a horror environment, and anytime I tried to shoot a gun, I shot somebody. So,
Who, just real quick, pull around the table, who got shot by Dirty?
Wow.
Oh, no, only... I did get shot, though, but that was from Detective Noir.
Yeah, I think you guys took more bullet damage from each other than you guys dealt.
I got
damage
buckshot in my back.
So you got buckshot in your back.
Like almost close range shotgun you in the spine. Yeah.
And you got shot with a rapid fire pistol shot in the shoulder, Adam.
Yeah.
Magnum round.
Dave didn't get shot by anybody, but Dave killed Dirty with a rifle shot to the chest.
And I'd do it again.
What the?
Did Charity kill anything?
Charity.
She was involved in a lot of damage.
She straight up killed the very first ghoul you guys came across.
Charity was the best shot in the game.
She was, yeah.
Yeah, but you were
walked
also
out.
hiding in the back the whole time. I couldn't remember.
I was
I
not.
literally took a shit ton of damage because we had to run back and save your ass on that chase like six times.
Yeah. Like I fell a lot, didn't I?
Yeah, you just could not walk.
So she's the one that blew out the back of Ryan McKinney's head in right outside of the Wolfjaw Inn.
Yeah.
Right when you guys first got as soon as Gunn and Detective Noir are sitting on the ground bleeding from open wounds.
But
that was jarring.
Rip's character made me think much more creatively about mundane items because the amount of stuff you were able to achieve with a shovel was unprecedented.
Or a chain flail.
So next time I go into D&D, I'm not going to be trying to disarm the poison dart trap. I'm just going to put a shovel over the hole and walk by it. Like, it's just...
That is literally how I play role-playing games.
Yeah.
Everyone else is like, what are my spell slots? What can I do? I'm like, I was saying this earlier. I go, I've got a clay jug. what am I going to be up to with this shit?
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, Dan, I've killed 2 of your main bosses in your campaigns within the last year by using mundane items.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's no item in the game more powerful to add up than a 10-foot pole and a jar full of lantern oil.
Is this
Yeah.
a sex thing?
Yes, that too.
Okay.
Yeah, that game as well, but that's the other podcast.
Fantastic.
Right. So we have dungeon mastering for both kinds of. Never mind.
But yeah. But
So
that's my main piece of advice for anyone who's going into this particular game style without a weapon.
it's a sex thing.
It's a
Is
sex
that
thing.
it's a sex thing?
No, is that you have to be creative with the items that you have, and because my character, unfortunately, I joined in late, I did not actually add items to my character. So in her possession, she didn't really have anything she could be creative with, and so she had to use her environment, which sometimes was just slim and nil to what was around. So that's my word of advice. If you're going to do something non-combatant, bring other shit with you.
Cool. We did mention that Gunn straight up murdered Gertie.
Accidentally murdered.
Accidentally in a
Intentionally
fit of
murdered.
insanity.
Well, I mean, Gertie critical failed on the.
Oh yeah, and Gertie like.
And then I rolled max damage on the It
was the
gonna happen.
dice playing against you guys. But to Megan and Adam, you guys are the only 2 characters in this that actually died. What was that experience like?
Well, yeah, I can kind of attest to this. So, I felt like it was a relief when I died.
Tell me about it.
More of a sense.
Is that the way we should go? Is that
Absolutely,
better?
just have so much better.
This is a bad podcast now
Yeah.
for some people.
Yeah, if that's a trigger warning, please don't listen to that. It's too late now, but that's fine. No,
Wow,
it
Megan,
was-
you're responsible for a lot now.
I am, yeah. No, it was more along the lines of I honestly thought it was going to happen sooner. First of all, because my intro to the game, I almost died before I made it to you guys.
Yeah,
that's
so-
true.
That was great.
So by the time I actually made it to you guys, I didn't expect to make it through the first episode or 2. So the fact that I made it through to the point where I did, when I got to the end and we were kind of nearing and coming things to a close, when she got shot, I didn't even think to push my dice. And
Yeah.
I didn't. I just rolled the worst roll you could possibly roll to save myself, and I didn't push it because I was like, you know what? This is more epic in her death than trying to push this roll. So I just let it happen.
Otherwise, you're lying at the bottom of the stairs, sputtering and spurting and
And just, yeah,
waiting for medicine checks to fail.
right? So I was just like, just let her go. So,
On the bright side, she died quickly as opposed to Rip
Rip went out in an explosion.
being slowly impaled by falling debris.
I don't know how slowly debris falls for you, but when
It was
you
raining from the sky.
well, every explosion happens in slow motion, so.
right, okay.
Yeah.
No,
To be completely honest, you and I have had a conversation about the death of the death of Chewbacca,
yeah.
and how that went down in the Star Wars books.
Die.
That was a spoiler for you? I'm sorry, friend.
It wasn't. We've talked about it on the podcast.
Listen to you, Dan.
But love you too, Gary. But I wanted to give you that kind of moment where you're sitting with like your defiant fist out to the sky, howling at it. So I kind of because you were this massive, hairy beast that
I
could
guess
rip the arms
it's
off.
funny.
of it, right?
I didn't make that parallel myself. I was sitting there looking at the rest of them, going, "They're gonna run away." Gunn, who's my best bro, is gonna make it because we're in an '80s action.
Yeah, and you're,
And I think we surf in Hawaii. I think it's a part of this.
okay.
But at least we do BMX.
One of you wears loafers with no socks on.
Exactly,
And rolls
yeah.
up your suit jacket.
Yeah, so
With the cuff underneath it. Like the 2 levels.
it's beautiful.
The other one
That's
rolls
what
up the
it is.
T-shirt and has a pack of smokes tucked in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it was Gunn and Charity, who was like the person that I would like potentially going to be Rip's future as far as investment. Whatnot. I'm like, if there are any 2 people that he wants to get out alive, it's going to be these 2. And then the crows descended, and I was assuming the crows would be intelligent enough to not attack me if I am going to light then everything up, because they're the eyes and ears of
Nyarlathotep.
Emotep.
Completely different.
Is it?
Yeah, completely different. Well,
Okay.
not actually. Really not actually.
But so I had this idea that I'm either going to go out in a blaze of glory, literally, or I'm going to walk away from this and be like, ow, 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 like I did from the last 3 things that happened.
Yeah.
And And then you did a thing, and this is why I gotta ask you, I'm gonna flip this on you, okay? Because it just occurred to me while Megan was talking. Both when Megan died and when I died, you took away our roles. And you said this happens. Do you get uncomfortable killing players?
Vastly, yes.
Because I've watched you kill players before and you try to get it over with as quickly as possible. You don't like to wallow in it. Whereas I, as Terry can attest, I want to wallow in the character death. I want you to feel it for the next 45 minutes.
Yeah.
I want you to slowly fade to black as a player.
Yeah, but I feel like, again, this is another example of you assuming that everybody else thinks like you. So.
Well, actually, if it's
that's what people do.
If it's a game that I am playing around a table without a microphone present, I would wallow a little bit more, make it a little bit more weighty. But because we are trying to hit a certain timetable, but because I'm trying to wrap up the episode, right?
I wasn't being critical. I was just like, every time, I've seen you do it in other games too, where somebody dies, you're like, unfortunately, that is the end of your character. All right, what's everybody else doing? Right? And there isn't that, like, I run funerals in my campaign.
What a beautiful moment, though.
That's all. People think differently. It's all what is important to you in the game. You know.
Yeah, but I just wanted to kind of hit home that the DM or the GM or the keeper of Arcane Secrets also has an emotional attachment to these characters as well. I was content going into Blaze of Glory also because there was like 10 minutes left at the end, but I'm like, haha, action sequence. I got to be Gandalf on the bridge, right? With the Balrog. That's what I wanted.
Yeah.
Right? So I was really, really okay with it, but you seem to have more of a problem with it than I did.
I don't like killing characters, which is not the Call of Cthulhu is not the game for anybody who is squeamish about killing characters, right?
Yeah.
To be completely honest, I fudged a couple things earlier on.
God damn it, Dan!
Daniel!
You say God damn it, but you were dead in the first episode.
That's okay!
Gertie was as well, and you know what?
Gertie was as well. We were about to walk into this campaign, and it would have been Rip and Charity.
This is where we
after
think
episode 2.
This is where we think differently, because this is a game that's based on dice. If that happens to me, I go, what are we doing then? What are we doing?
No, so the only reason why I held on to Detective Noir and Gunn when I did and Gertie to a lesser extent, was because we were on episode 1.
Well, I mean...
Right? And like, I didn't want to lose half my table at episode 1.
That's fair.
Right.
Also, look, I'm with Terry in this. I'm cool with it. But it was the first time we'd actually done combat.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that, well, I'm going to walk right up to him and I'm going to punch him in the mouth. Oh, he can hit me back on my turn was very strange for us.
I got words to say about that bullshit later as well.
Let's talk about dodge later.
Yes, let's.
Initiative, not necessary, Call of Cthulhu. They're going anyway.
So we've kind of talked about the character death and playing in this new system, but when we rolled up the characters and we formed our original wants and needs, I really want to know when you guys kind of gave up on what your character's goal was going into this and just focused on the story. When was that point for you?
Immediately.
First 5 minutes.
Yeah, immediately. I had not a
Well,
big, long
you didn't have a lot of like future plans or back plans. You were in the area to kill big things.
Yeah, I mean, I had some stuff that I thought might be neat with my guy. I had a mustache. I'm not sure any of you knew that. Right here, it's on my paper. All right. I even on my sheet here, treasured possessions, mustache, gear and possessions, mustache wax. We never even got into it. All right. So there was a lot that I never even got to explore.
I wasn't aware that Gunther was Stan Marsh from South Park.
Mustache wax.
I have a disease.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was America.
But I mean, I felt like right when we were on the train, my character was a big game hunter. He liked to be out in the woods by himself. But in order to drive the story along, I felt like I had to maybe get a little bit away from that because immediately Detective Noir was a dick to Winky on the train, and I was like, okay, well, it's
his name is Leonard Winkler.
No one will remember that, Dan.
Winky.
I was a dick to him. He was being annoying.
He was. You're absolutely right.
And therefore you were ridiculous.
Yeah, and because of that, I mean, I felt a little bad for the poor guy.
No.
Right? So, it was like right away. It was a change.
No.
Yeah.
Miaca?
I think it was when Charity walked out the tavern and did like a double tap on that monster. It was like, all right, name of the game is survival.
Which, by the way, one of the most badass moments of this entire campaign. Like, they walked out nonchalantly, like, oh no, this is going down like North Carolina. This is getting down south now. Bang bang. Like it was brilliant.
It's like, boom, nice to meet you all.
Meanwhile, like the police detective and the gigantic miner and the huntsman are sitting there like holding moons and like stunned at what's going on, and here comes itty bitty Charity Flanagan with a little Derringer pistol.
Honestly, I think I held on to it longer than anybody else then, because every time that I had motivation, I even turned to Charity like in the last episode, and I'm like, all right, so things get weird. You and I are going to fuck off here so that you can invest in my mining company in the future. Yeah. I know of these towns down in the south, and like, so I was still into it.
Yeah, you were.
Well, I feel like because my character, all she was doing was she's on her way to her first job, you know, and then she got railroaded by all this horror nonsense. So I think like the first 5 minutes when something raked her across the chest and almost like let her bleed out to death, she suddenly was just like, well, shit, this is about survival. This has nothing to do with me getting to my job right now. My debts. Oh, shit. So I think it was like almost immediately. She's like, I don't give a crap about getting to where I was supposed to be. I was like, I just need to survive and live. But I think that's the aspect of horror that really came out of it, is that you kind of abandon a piece of that part of yourself so that you can actually survive.
Yeah. I think mine was, because I had every intention of going in with a really serious, dark character. Killed his own son in the line of duty because law was more important than, and you know, his son was doing wrong. Yeah, he was a small Frenchman, but he was going in with this sort of darkness, and I wanted him to be taken seriously as a police officer and somebody you can rely on. His first situation in the town was his boss not taking him seriously. You won't be listened to, and when I like tried to be a police officer, nobody listened to me. And I wasn't being taken seriously as a police officer. So in my mind, I went, well, fuck that then. I'm just going to go off the other end. And so that's what I did.
Well, I wanted to add that little bit of tension for you because I know you lean heavily more into the role-playing side of into the game. So I wanted to add that tension of you having to prove yourself to a certain amount, right? So
I think, but...
Right, and like you were the big city detective coming to podunk nowhere, where they have their own things, and really the law is different in a podunk town in northern Yukon than it will be in like downtown Montreal.
Yeah, I was really going to lean into, this guy's a 52-year-old veteran cop, military police, served in the Somme in World War I, from Quebec City, been in the game for years, came in, and that sheriff was like, no, shut up. And then so straight away I just decided, okay, I gotta abandon this because it's not going to work for this game.
Well, Dan, what were your main sources of inspiration, and what did you steal or adapt for this campaign?
Okay, so this is a bit of a contentious issue with the person across the table from me. Because I sat down and I wrote down the plot to the campaign, and just to open up the curtain a little bit, I was like, it's a horror campaign. I need advice on how to do this, so I called Adam over. And I was like, okay, I know you're going to be...
You're the most horrifying person I know.
I asked Adam over to take a look at the campaign, and he goes, oh, it's like Desperation from Stephen King. And I'm like, pardon? He's like, yeah, it's like Desperation. And I had no knowledge of Desperation. And Adam goes, one sec, I'll be back tomorrow, I'm going to give you a book. I'm like, okay, cool. So Adam came back the next day and handed me it's 500 pages.
Yeah.
It's
Stephen King.
Yeah, it's a Stephen King book. And I sat down and I read it, and it was beat for beat what I wanted to do for the campaign. And I'm like, come on.
The good news is you're as brilliant as Stephen King is.
Oh.
Thanks.
Take that. Oh, he's a smart man.
Yeah, no, very smart man. But I then took certain aspects and I leaned into it a little bit more with some things and then added others. Because Stephen King's vision of desperation with the mining town and everything being in the mine was kind of where I was going with this, except instead of this old temple with like this pit that goes into the nowhere, I wanted to have like an actual physical, like more Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom kind of feel, with like cultists chanting and holding up human hearts and stuff like that. So I wanted to go more in that direction, and then you guys didn't go in the fucking cave. So thanks for that.
Were there any other
You're welcome.
inspirations?
So I pulled a lot from Desperation. I pulled from Walking Dead quite a lot as well. With that, and I pulled from The Thing, and then of course because it is Call of Cthulhu, I pulled from Lovecraft, right? And really did I kind of scattered out the elder gods in front of me and went, which one do I think would fit this whole theme of cultists trying to bring them into this area, and a little bit of body horror, some weird mind control worm eel thing, like all of these little things that I wanted to do. And I'm like, well, Nyarlathotep is the master shadow, the king of the worms, the man in black. Like, he is this character who is frequently in the mortal realms, walking around corrupting and causing madness amongst populaces, and he likes targeting lower populist areas that are more removed and isolated to really pull apart and draw the insanity out of them. So Nyarlathotep was a perfect fit for this.
I feel like you took the themes of Lovecraft and the plot from Desperation and the setting from The Thing, and you mashed them all together.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. So, speaking of Lovecraft, Terry, you were one of the big driving forces behind exploring the game, mostly because you, one, really like to be hurt in the games. You've said this over and over and over again. You wanted to be hurt, you wanted to be scared, you wanted to be
strapped down and some Dan furniture.
Strapped down and whipped. But
Why do you always think I'm the person being strapped down and whipped?
because you say I'm the person to be strapped down and whipped.
No, I tell you, I like emotional turmoil.
No, we've
within
decided,
games.
Terry. You don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't have a choice in this matter. No, but also because
I
Lovecraft...
don't build this body for somebody else to hold me down. And I'll leave it there.
So Lovecraft's work interests you. So one of the things I wanted to really do for this is scratch that itch for you in this Lovecraftian horror type campaign. So going into this, what were you looking for, and do you feel like you explored that enough?
Yeah, I feel I look for real emotion within the games.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually don't enjoy those games too much where everybody's a mega superhero and everybody's always winning and huzzah, we slayed through another 200 enemies, and there's no, because I get to the point, like I said before, I'm like, what are we doing? We're just plowing through fields here. I never feel threatened. I don't feel a real challenge if it's designed that I'm always going to win. So this game made me feel vulnerable in the sense that I really have to think how I'm going to overcome this challenge. Working with people who I haven't played too much with before, especially in a new system, and so it's like a chess game. You really have to think, because that threat of death, that vulnerability is so real, and that amps up the emotion, that amps up the horror, and that's what I got from this game. Was every single scenario, whether it be even if you're just looking around the corner, you can hear a noise. In D&D, everybody plows around with their staffs and their magic and their spell slots ready to go. But in this game, even how you do that is going to be critical, whether you live or die.
One of my favorite moments with you was you were all sitting in the Inuit village discussing whether or not to cut off your ears. And that 15-minute discussion between the five of you was intense, because you guys were arguing whether or not this was something you even needed to do and why should we need to do it. And you really got into it with your character, and you got pissed off and we're about to burn the village now. You just did not want to be there anymore.
Yeah.
And I just, it makes me feel like you achieved that a little bit with the campaign because of these weird body horror things you were constantly encountering, and this constant weight of death over top of you. And I mean, you didn't really have to deal with your sanity score very much.
No,
there was once or twice where
it was just luck. I just passed the
yeah.
But I think that this idea of horror in this game works both ways.
Yeah.
So in D&D, when you're presented with a situation like that, you're more likely to go through with it because it's likely that the individual that's presented with that situation is some sort of high-powered devil or a wizard, or essentially you're pushed into having to make the decision that you don't want to make.
Yeah.
In this game, it was kind of even, because this person was saying, I need you to do this, but my character was like, what about if I put a fucking bullet in your head? How about that?
Exactly.
They're as vulnerable as you are, and so now you get those conversations become very real, and the emotion is very raw. I don't feel like I'm being railroaded into doing something I don't necessarily want to do.
That's a really good point. There's no alignment in this. You're playing people.
Yeah.
Right? And so there's some gray area that you can... I'm not worried about, am I a good person at the end of this? It was survival. Am I chaotic good, right? I don't give a shit in Call of Cthulhu. I just need to live.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's survival based.
Yeah.
There was actually a funny thing that I wanted to do, and this is going to go back to your question as well. While you guys were in the Inuit village, I did want you to, at one point, trip balls in some way, shape, or form, and I wanted to pull in your guys' backstories as realistic visions that you would experience, whether it be of Charity Flanagan's father and the intense man that he was, or Gunn's ambiguous role in the Great War.
Don't worry about it.
Or
I was thinking about that after. I should have just gone full German and been like, when Gertie came out, oh hey, what's going on, my people? You know, but
I think I tried to catch you out once.
Once or twice.
I tried to trip you up to see what language you've spoken in naturally.
And then the big one that I kept on going back in my planning when I was trying to figure out how I would do this was making Detective Noir relive killing his son again.
Yeah.
And go through that once or twice in different ways.
And that was just luck, because I just kept passing my sanity.
Yeah, and you just kept on passing your sanity rolls. I'm like, oh, I want to play with this so much, but I guess if we do a longer form campaign, that would be...
It would have come up.
Oh, it would have come up
eventually. You're not going to win every roll.
Also, when you play a longer form campaign, you really start to dig deep into the mechanics of the system and whatnot. So, I just want to ask everybody, what was your favorite mechanic for Call of Cthulhu and why?
I would say the only one that I actually really enjoyed and I felt was necessary was luck.
Yeah.
I felt that was because you had to actually kind of spend it appropriately, or not spend it, or utilize it in a way to make sure things get pushed or rolled. So if you really wanted something to succeed, we had the power as players to make it happen, as opposed to begging the DM or the GM to make it happen for us.
There's a lot of ways through expendable resources to force success in the game. But if you run out of it, and then you're up.
Yeah, so you do have to monetize it yourself. You have to utilize what's more important to you as a character versus something else, right?
Yeah. Terry?
I won't say a specific mechanic, no, it is, I guess, is that the system which is used, the percentile dice system, because Adam was talking about earlier, you already know whether or not you've succeeded, and I think it makes a much faster gameplay. Because we know straight away, boom, 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 you're going for the same number every time whenever you're trying to hit a specific thing. And it also means that you have more agency into where you pump things into for how successful you want to be in a particular thing.
Yeah.
So I actually prefer this system.
Oh, wow.
For faster gameplay.
Cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that as well, the percentage system, but it's for a different reason. I like the fact that no matter how good you are at something, you still have at your very best day a 10% chance to fuck it up.
Yeah.
You still have the opportunity to do poorly. We don't have the advantage or disadvantage system in this, but we do have, now you have to hit a hard success, which is upsetting. That is, there's more than once where I went, do I push this? Do I try again? Because what if I don't get it? What are the consequences? And it
gets worse, right?
Yeah, and it became more real. And I'm starting to think now that if I'm giving you advantage in D&D in 5th edition, and you still fail, I'm going to hit you harder with the consequences of that now.
Yeah.
I've learned that from Call of Cthulhu, and I really like that. The different varying degrees of failure or success.
Yeah. Dave?
I like the sanity mechanic. I know, Adam, you've used it before in D&D, yeah?
Yeah.
But in this, it really felt like at the end when I was seeing Germans everywhere and so on, it really forced a little more background to my character and made me appreciate who he was. Like we've said, this game is very roleplay heavy, and that's not what I'm used to. And I really liked that about it. It just gave my character more depth and allowed me to really get into who he is and, make a decision from his point of view, not mine.
It kind of comfortably pushes character development as well. You don't feel like it's being forced, because Dan never really, maybe a little bit in description, but never really told us how to feel or how to act, just more what was happening. And then the character development came in how we decided we would react to that situation. He might say, you feel cold or something, but no, you have to do this based on the sanity roll.
Yeah, I mean, after my 3.5 sessions, I normally sit there and I'm like, oh, my DM did this, my DM did that. And this time I would go home afterwards and be like, oh, well, I should have done this, I should have done that. And it kind of just gave me a little more control over what I was doing.
Yeah, Miaca?
Could I say like persuasion was my favorite mechanic, or is that not a mechanic?
Well, it plays different than in 5th, right? Like, you've got your experience in 5th now, and persuasion in this plays a lot different than persuasion did in 5th. So which one do you like better, I guess?
I guess I like this better.
Yeah.
Only because I put a lot of points into it, and I think it saved the party a whole lot. Like throughout the entire
Wouldn't you
game.
say, Charity? You
know what? It really reinforced the fact that you had, you guys had your speaking person in the party. You had your high charisma character in the party, but really, Rip was doing just as much talking as Charity was. It just, when something really needed to be negotiated, that's when they called Charity in.
Yep.
So, I do want to ask a real quick question, more towards Adam here than anything else. With all these mechanics and whatnot, and the fact that, Adam, you're typically a DM.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since you've been a player, let alone a player in a very tight and focused campaign. How was that experience, especially for someone who, like most people at the table, were just learning the rules for the first time?
It made me stop and think. I think it's good for anybody who's getting complacent with the rule system that they're already in to try a new system, because I more than once, Dan, how many times did I turn to you, even in the character creation process, and go, no, that's not how it works. It works like this, right? And I'm not used to being confused on the rules.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not used to having to react to what other people are doing. I know when I'm sitting around a 5th ed table, I got a ranger. I know what that ranger's going to do. I got a cleric, I know what the cleric's going to do. And now I'm sitting here with the nurse, and I have no idea, what can the nurse do?
I'll get into that.
Well, the thing is, like, the character classes in this are just occupations.
Yeah.
They're just jobs. Like,
They're backgrounds.
They're backgrounds. They're nothing more than like a 5th edition background.
So, I don't know, I thought that I had a lot of fun being a player. More than once, honestly, more than once, I sat back and went, wow, I would have done that differently. For you as the keeper. But I'm also sitting here going, guys, why are you shooting? You should be running while I do this. And Miaca, for fuck's sakes, push that roll, right? And I'm like, and I'm sitting here, I don't have enough to do as a player. I'm sitting here going, I'm antsy, let's all fucking do shit, and let's move forward. And there's a lot of sitting passively for me, which I'm not used to, especially because I want clarity on the rules.
Yeah,
right?
Fair enough.
And so, I don't know, this was a challenge for me to sit back and not, like you said, everybody's talking and Rip's doing a lot of talking. Now, my character was intelligent. It was one of his higher stats, and he was educated. That was one of his higher stats. So he can talk, but I put nothing into persuasion or fast talk
Or charm.
I didn't put any stats in any of these. And because I wasn't expecting to use it. I was expecting to be Chewbacca. I was going to sit in the back and grunt, right? And then every once in a while I'm like, okay, no, we need to go over here. We got to do this because we got to, and I'm like, and I think I feel like maybe that was kind of the panic of the Call of Cthulhu system as well.
Yeah, the tension made you force your hand as a player a little bit more.
Yeah, and more than once we would sit down and be like, okay, guys, what's the plan? What are we doing next? And we would have a 5-minute conversation that would be 30 seconds in the game. And you're like, nope, time's up, move on. And I'm just like, what? Being on the other side of the table is different.
Yeah.
It's good to be reminded of that.
Yeah, for sure. Miaca, we talked briefly earlier about 5th edition compared to this, and you being completely new in every which is tabletop as a whole. I did want to ask though, in what ways are these different in your mind as a new player going into this? What ways are these different, and what's your favorite difference between the two? Because now you're new, you've got a fresh eyes on both systems.
I really like how in 5th edition I didn't have to like spend 2 hours doing math
to build the character.
Yeah.
Agreed, 100%.
I mean, like, there's a little math, but it's not like how this was. And what else did you ask?
Like, what was your favorite difference? So character creation in 5th edition is a lot more streamlined, a lot easier to get through. What was your favorite part of Call of Cthulhu that you think does better than 5th?
I don't know. I would say they're pretty equal for me. I've only been playing like 5th edition for like a few weeks. So, and I've only been playing this for a few weeks, so I don't know.
It's like two different good cakes, but like one's more like one's chocolate, one's vanilla. They're both good, but they're noticeably different.
Yeah.
Dan, can I ask you something?
Sure.
You
regrettably sure.
Regrettably sure. Even though he said, sure, fine, like I feel like I should entertain this, but I don't really want to. Okay, you've DM'd D&D for yours, but this is the first time you did Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah.
So, what did you find was your biggest regret when DMing, or the biggest thing that you learned, and what do you think you failed at the most?
So when we sat down and figured out that we we're going to do this Call of Cthulhu thing, I was like, yeah, no, I'll run it because I've got experience playing Call of Cthulhu. I don't even remember what edition Call of Cthulhu I played, but it certainly wasn't 7th. So we discussed, we're going to play this in a couple months. Well, Dan, you got lots of time to prep and get going, and my life is a fairly hectic one, so getting you've got 3 months to do the prep, man, sweet. I've got 2 months to not even remotely think about it and then start prepping at that point. So I think one of the big ways I failed was I crammed the rule set, I crammed all of that really a month, which is more than I usually do for a typical D&D campaign. Let's get this out there. Because of my knowledge of D&D and everything else, I'm far more able to just wing it. But with this, I know I needed to, and then we got to like the month before, and I was like, oh crap, I don't even know how to roll characters, or I didn't know the details of the system, so I crammed it all. So I think one of my biggest failures is because anyone who has done any sort of college education will honestly say if you're cramming, you're going to be forgetting things, right? Like, it's not the best way to study. Don't study that way. You want to slowly build up that knowledge base. So there were a couple rules that I got wrong right off the bat, and then like 3 episodes in, I'm like, oh, we're doing that wrong, and then adjusted. But I think my biggest regret for the campaign was the fact that I didn't really give it a lot of the front end that I really needed to in terms of prepping to session 0. After session 0, I didn't dive into your guys' backgrounds enough. I didn't dive into at the very last episode we mentioned Dave's experience with after he lost his mind, and there was a little thing before where you guys heard, like, I think you had a bout of insanity where you were hearing gunfire and it sounded like the song, right? Like, there was those kind of things, but it wasn't sufficient enough, right? So I say if I was to run this differently this time, we would have a session where we built characters, built backstories and everything else, and then everybody go away for a couple weeks while I just prep based off your backstories, right? And throw in encounters based off your backstories. I think those are the biggest things I think I failed the hardest at and would do differently in the future. Yeah. Speaking of going temporarily insane, Dave, Terry, Adam, what was the experience like? Dave, we'll do you last because you had the more deepest dive into this.
I think for me, like I said to Dave earlier, it just encouraged your character development and encouraged roleplay a little bit more. I enjoyed it obviously because we always talk about how much I like emotional trauma within the game, and I think it changes the battlefield, so to speak, or the field of play very dramatically, because it can go very wrong very quickly. And we saw with Dave's character, when his character went insane, and part of that insanity was he basically had to just shoot anything that was closest to him, any character. And we saw how quickly that went wrong with Megan's character.
No.
But there's any number of different things that can happen. So it gives more stress to the game.
It going wrong with Megan's character was like the third worry I had about that the second I rolled up randomly what his insanity would do, because you guys were walking back from the
he could have killed us outright. He could have
with a barrel full of oil and a pocket full of dynamite. Like I was like, he's going to straight up incinerate and blow to, like he's going to gib, rip, and Noir, Detective Noir, set off a big signal that you guys are getting ready to go for the cultists. Like, this could go bad real quick.
I could have been the big bad evil guy.
You could have been. You really could. Adam?
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. Okay, let me start off. Okay, I love the sanity mechanic. I think it's a lot of fun, especially from a DM side. I like it better than the sanity mechanic that exists as an option in the DMG for 5th Ed. However, I absolutely hate being a player without agency. And I think that's true of anytime you get charmed or mind controlled in any role-playing game, where you're like, oh, you know what? I have no control over my action. I'm sorry as I fucking murder you, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. In D&D, I'm laughing about it, because you still have 3 death saves, and someone else got a health potion. There's a cleric in the back who's just running up. He'll be here in 2 rounds. This is fine. I'm going to lop your leg off. It'll be okay. However, in Call of Cthulhu, you have the person beside me is my ally. They have 6 points left, 6 hit points left, and I'm wielding a chain flail. This is going to go poorly, and they're going to die. And I'm sitting there going, okay, I'm scrambling now. What do I do to not murder them? Can I hit the objects around me instead? Can I do that? Can I push even on a success to try to have to hit a hard success? What mechanic can I do? Can I spend luck to miss? What can I do to not murder somebody else?
Yeah.
Who did I end up hitting? Was it? I was in the general store early on when I went insane.
That was, I think I was with you. That was the first
yeah, and I was attacking you, right? And you managed to bail out and get far enough away. And I just continued to rage because it said attacking everything nearby. And it didn't say everyone nearby. And I went, oh, thank God, I'm going to smash the shelves, right? But then it said everyone nearby, and I'm hunting gun down through the store. Right, it's great from a storytelling perspective, from a DM perspective. For me, I hated it. In the moment, my skin was crawling. I didn't like it. So it's effective. Is my point. Like,
yeah, cool.
It is good. I hated it, and that is good. So,
Dave, because I gotta say, just props to you. I gave you the situation that was going on in your head, and like your posture changed at the table, and you're like, okay, so I'm back in war now, and you rolled with it, and you really embraced the insanity, and props to you for really doing that deep dive. As someone who confessed to be someone who doesn't role play very well, you did great there, bud.
Well, thank you. I also hated it. It's funny, the things that Terry Adams said, I mean, that's pretty much what I had written down. I hated it, but it doesn't mean that I didn't like it.
That is precisely what that means.
No. You'll understand one day, Dan.
when you're older.
But it also felt like it gave me a little more depth. It allowed me to really explore that character a little bit more. Is it something I would rush to do again? I mean, not willingly.
No.
But, it really...
What, you don't like being the person solely responsible for the first player character death?
Actually, you know what? I kind of do.
Hello, Satan.
And I envy you.
It's neat. I just said it a minute ago. Like, I could have been the big bad evil guy. I could have killed both of them and Gertie and gone downstairs and be like, oh, Charity, the cultists must have got, or the allies came and she'd have been like, what the hell's going on? It really could have changed the entire outcome of what was going on. I could have been the only one that walked out of there.
And still thinking that your entire party are either Germans or allies or whatever it is.
Maybe
on top
the
of that,
Germans
right?
were my allies.
Maybe the Germans
I mean,
were your allies. I still want a definitive. I figured that because you went crazy and started seeing Germans everywhere, they were the bad guys.
They were. I mean, I kind of played it off a little bit, but right in my backstory under traits, it does say Allied Spy in Great War. So I did try to kind of stay true to that. Although there are times now that I wish I could go back and maybe play it a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
But
you would not have shot Gertie in the chest?
No, I probably would have shot Gertie in the chest.
Okay.
How dare you?
Dodge better.
The one thing I'll say this.
Let's talk about dodge.
Dodge bullets better.
The one thing I'll say about sanity, and sorry, David peeked over your shoulder and read your note, and Dave says it makes it so you're not just another pretty face, right? So everybody's insanity is geared towards their character. It is radically different for everybody. That's unique to Call of Cthulhu that I've seen, and I think that's a success.
Cool. Awesome. I did want to ask, we've hit it over and over and over again, Dave. You straight up killed Gertie. You are responsible for that first player character death. Have you ever experienced that in any other game where you were the person killing another person around the table, and what was that experience like for you?
I mean, most of my background, like you said, is 3.5, and I've DM'd 99.9% of that. So killing other players at the table,
Not a problem.
sure. No, it doesn't bother me at all.
Just another Thursday.
Although I gotta say, it really felt like the players and not just the characters were looking at me different afterwards. I got that like side eye from I think Terry especially.
Side-eye?
Yeah, just the
I felt like we became closer.
What's
In my mind, I went, you can trust this one. Yes.
As he stands over the smoking hole in Gertie's chest.
Yes, this one will serve as well.
Wow.
Whoa.
But no, it was interesting because it caused me to stop and be unsure of everything that was going on around me, and it really sidelined my character without doing any physical damage. It took me, once I came back and realized, when Gunn realized what he had done, he went back and he sat in the corner and he went outside by himself and he removed himself from everybody else, and I really didn't do much after that. Yeah. And I think that was really what my character would have done, but just
cool.
Another day, I guess.
Can I add on to that? Just like if you had to play the game longer, because that was kind of like the last episode, do you feel like your character would have come out of that, or do you feel like you would have been a step back character after that?
No, that would have been a big deal. That would have been a defining trait probably added to the sheet afterwards. It's not something that's not just another
easy.
day.
Yeah, exactly. Megan, you spent a lot of time, like, you died at the end, like, near the middle of one of the last episodes. Mm-hmm. You came in late to the game with a couple sessions late. In fact, like, you were unavailable for the first few, and you came later and joined the campaign late.
Yep.
You spent a lot of time just sitting and listening to everybody. Were you able to stay engaged? And if yes, how?
So there's a couple pieces of this question for me. A lot of it kind of stems down to the way my character was built coming into a new type of gameplay, especially coming into a game that is roleplay heavy for someone who's not really big in the roleplay aspect, and also trying to play a character that was a non-combatant who's used to playing combatant characters. So I feel like the couple of things that led into her being a backseat character is a nurse kind of feels like a support character to begin with.
You're reactionary.
I'm reactionary. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like her role, is she kind of responds to what's happening in the room, not necessarily being the driver. I'm not going to see a 22-year-old nurse running out there with a hatchet, which maybe she could have, but that's anyways, that's how I kind of like decided
Shotgun
to play
in my
her.
experience, but sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
I want to see that movie.
Right? So, and then again, it was the preparedness too, so I kind of rushed my character development a little bit. So again, I started the game without items. I started the game without a couple of pieces that I felt I could have used to be more creative in my character gameplay. And then the mechanics killed me. Emotionally as a person and as a character. The percentile, I will be the devil's advocate, I did not like the percentile system. The main reason being, the fact that you guys are speaking it to being a good thing, that there was that level of fluctuation between being able to be successful in things and fail at things. I felt it sucked being a nurse, which is my occupation, and being a worse healer than a few people at the table because they rolled better than I did. Mm-hmm. So that kind of, as being my thing, kind of was like, well, shit. If I'm not rolling well at this, and like the person next to me who doesn't know how to heal people is healing people better than I am, it was kind of demoralizing and a little bit more deflating as a character. Mm-hmm. So I felt it difficult to get into my role because I couldn't roll well.
Yeah, and you were dealing with some seriously bad dice luck as well, right?
So, but then at the same time, I kind of wanted to use this question to flip this and give a shout out to my introvert fellow D&D and roleplay game players. Is when you go into a game that is roleplay heavy, there are some things that you can kind of do to kind of keep yourself engaged. And that's kind of, I try to utilize them on a regular basis, even though I'm sometimes successful and sometimes not. But find a player at the table that is stronger than you and almost attach yourself to them in some way, shape, or form. I know some people may agree or not agree with that, but having a partner at the table helps you stay engaged with what their character is doing and helps your character build a little bit of almost a backbone when it comes to making decisions at the table as a group, as well as things that can encourage other people with their choices that they're making. So I do find for myself, I love when someone's doing something that they're really engaged in, I will be excited and help them describe what's going on, just because I want them to feel like what they're doing is important to the table as well. And then just remember, it is about having fun. So at the end of the day, even if you are a character who's a support character or a backseat character, or if you're not a strong role player, you're still important to the game and everybody's here to have fun. So just kind of get creative with what you can and what's at your disposal. But I feel like the mechanics at the beginning of the game is really what killed being a nurse. Yeah.
Well, I think that's got to be true for you as well as a big game hunter, right? In the end, I was stealthier than you, and Charity was a better shot.
Yeah, you were the third best shot at the table.
Yeah.
Tell that to Gertie.
I also
Megan just gave great advice to introverted players.
This is why you're an
You
intern.
just shed all over that.
But I mean, I
Megan's giving great advice, and Dave's just like, no, I'm gonna
no.
shoot you in the chest.
That was great. I didn't even realize you were doing it, but I mean, we got to the point where it was Rip and Gun and Gertie too. Like,
Yeah.
you really...
Yeah, when you said
Yeah.
that, I was like, you do that.
I do that a lot, yeah. But I think even Terry said it at one point during the game, like, I went 2 sessions without bumping up any of my stats.
Yeah.
So I had no stats at 90 by the time we were at the end, where some characters
Neither
had
did I.
stats at a 90 and like, what do I do if I roll above? And I'm like, okay, I'm still at like 60. I don't know what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
See, to be completely honest, the improvement system in this game is one of my least, as the keeper, as everything else, is one of my least favorite systems in this game.
Well, you're improving things you don't want to improve it.
Because you're improving things that you use once and you're improving. Like, I understand the mindset behind it, but it is far too easy to just start pumping your sanity if someone rolls like 2 or 3 lucky rolls, right? Now, in typical Call of Cthulhu, this game is supposed to be months upon months between improvements, whereas we were doing it pretty much at the end of
Every session,
right? Which was more just to help facilitate the game growing. The improvement system is one of my least favorite mechanics around the table, guys. Like, clearly the percentile system, not high on your list of things that you're a fan of, but around the table, everybody, what's your least favorite mechanic that you had to deal with here?
Dodge.
Dodge.
Throw. Fucking throw.
Fucking fight back, I thought was bullshit. And I'll tell you why.
I know. I want to hear what Terry's.
Fight back, I think, was bullshit because I think it's missing a step. Okay, we go initiative. It's dexterity. Mechanically, it is my turn. I am attacking you because mechanically I get to go first. Nope, this person automatically gets to try and hit you. I think it should be a dexterity roll. If they pass that dexterity roll, then they can try and hit you. It shouldn't be a matter of, it's your turn, but this person gets to hit you.
The main thing about the fight back system, as I understand it, is that you are doing a comparative roll at this point, right? And the person with the higher level of success is going to be the one that succeeds, right?
But then what is the point in me having a high dexterity, so essentially being quicker off the mark, if they automatically
Fair point.
get to hit me first?
Fair point.
Well, I guess. All right, and so
It's also based off the number of attacks they have. Like, the first fight you guys had was with the geologist Ryan, and he was statted up like a ghoul in Call of Cthulhu. So ghouls have 3 attacks, which means if you shoot him and you are within a point blank range with your gun, which is what you tried to do, he gets a attack back. And then if Adam on his turn did the same thing, he would get another attack. If you did the multi-shot thing you do with your gun, like offload, he would get a fight back every single attack until he hit his 3 attack limit. And then when it gets to his turn, he gets to do his 3 attacks, and then he has this pool of 3 responses to do. Right? It's like a attack of opportunity system gone haywire.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a dexterity roll to see if he is fast enough to achieve that.
But no, you
Fight
see,
back.
I'm okay with it because it encourages the paranoia of get back. The idea that we are point blank shooting in the first place is ridiculous to me. So,
Yeah, but it's not realistic though. Bang, bang, bang. That's how easy it is. You should have to do a dexterity roll to see if you're able to avoid that to hit me.
I'm not sure that the 3 in a row equals 3 attack backs. Are we sure on that? Yeah, really? Holy shit. But look, I think it comes down to the fact that we're dealing with, it's partly percentile, partly the dodge, partly, it all breaks down to the basic idea that you can choose. You can be really fucking good at 6 things, or you could be kind of shit at everything. And there's really not a whole bunch of give and take on that.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you were to play a long spread out game on this, if you would have people rolling to see only when it requires a roll. You wrestle to hit him. You don't have to write a full fight brawl. What's your strength? What's his strength? Yeah, you're a size category bigger? Absolutely. Like, you've got a combat category higher? Yeah, you can wrestle him. There's no roll involved in that. When you want to do damage and knock him out, make a roll.
There is a lot of givens. In this, combat is also supposed to be quick and deadly. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's one of the reasons why the fight back mechanics in there. I feel like I'm not one of the guys who wrote Call of Cthulhu, so I can't speak to them, but one of the feelings that I've gotten with my reading online is that the fight back thing is there to discourage combat. Combat is not supposed to be something that is run to
We
in
ran
this
a
game,
lot
right?
of combat.
And we ran a lot of combat that we did not need to run because the system's not really bent toward it. Like, combat's there because it's a necessity. You need to have combat, but this is mainly an investigation and mystery solving game, right? It's not. It is sitting around a table in a dark room with newspaper clippings strewn out about you, trying to put together a puzzle. There wasn't a lot of that in this. It was a lot of combat, you guys just trying to survive through cultists.
That's strange. I thought that we actually avoided a lot of combat by just blowing everything up.
Yes, but dynamite's not the answer. At least it
I mean, it
shouldn't.
was.
Right, but the problem, but here's what it comes down to. If you don't have Charity, Miaca, what does Charity have into stealth right now? At the end of the game.
20.
20. Which means she's got a 4 and 5 chance of failing that immediately. But I don't think that she needs to tiptoe, and this is how I would run it. Same way with throwing the dynamite into the church. The hole is in front of you. You can put your hand on it. Just throw it. There's no roll involved. There's no roll for tiptoeing down a hallway. There's only a roll if someone is actively looking for you. Or if you are trying to get it, like shoot a basketball, right, for throw. Yeah. That's when I think that these rolls would come into play. And I think you're right, Dan, that it's not just that combat is less of a factor than the way that we ran it, but I think that rolls technically are less than a factor as well. And that's one of the things that I would take away moving forward was I would have fewer rolls and just say, yes, you succeed most of the time. You don't have to roll to persuade someone unless they actively decide they don't want to listen to you.
Like selling Bernie across the street?
Yeah, like selling Bernie across the street. Yeah, that required a persuasion roll. But walking into me like, hey, look, we need your help, or can you tell me where the canned goods are in the grocery store? For an example, it didn't happen. I shouldn't roll a persuasion on that, right?
Yeah,
that just fucking happen, right? So I think that maybe that's why we hurt so badly in this, was because we were trying to do things that we weren't good at.
Yeah.
A lot of the time. And so people were then just relying on what they were good at. And so if I know that I have an 85 in stealth, I will do all of the stealth missions. And that's what Rip was doing, is running around like an action hero at the end, because I could fight and I could run and I could hit.
Yeah, this game almost kind of encourages min-maxing, I think, because even when the mistake I made is I spread my stuff too thin. Like, if I was going to replay this game, every character would be different, but this character would be good at driving, shooting, both types of weapons, and maybe stealthing.
But okay, let's look at the drive mechanic. So here's my point. Drive auto. Raise your hand around the table if you can drive a car, right? That's all of us. Every one of us here has a license and can drive.
Nobody
rolls. Yeah, nobody puts their hands up.
No, it'd be like if you're in a chase or something.
If you're in a
obstacles.
chase, right? Yeah. And so I think that moving forward, the skill base would be only for the necessities.
And that's the way it is played. But at the same time, I did want to.
You wanted to showcase the gaming system.
I wanted to showcase the gaming system a little bit, and we had. Anywhere between 8 and 10 sessions to...
Oh, I'm not being critical of the way that you ran.
No, I know that, but like the way the game is supposed to be played is like more long-term, long-form storytelling with very limited like chance thrown in. Like the way you're saying it should be run is the way it should be run. You're right. That is actually the way it should be run. It's just because we had such a short form of a campaign, I wanted to push things along, right?
I just feel like...
And I was an idiot that handed you a dozen sticks of dynamite right away, and that was just your guys' solution to everything.
I feel like it saved our lives, and by our lives, I mean not.
Molotov.
It also cost you guys quite a bit.
Do we Molotov? Do we dynamite?
Yes.
What are we thinking?
What?
You guys killed several survivors that you did not even know were there when you blew up a couple buildings.
the church.
Yeah, the church.
They were gone.
Well, not even survivors you didn't know were there. You knew the survivors were in the church, and you blew them up anyways.
They were done already.
There was a couple things like that. There were more survivors inside of Li Feng laundromat. There was a family of survivors that were in there.
Yeah, but they shot at us.
No. The crazy, having suffered insanity priest started shooting at you guys. You guys never investigated, and then threw a Molotov in the alley and burned it down.
Well, I mean, they're fire exits, right? Though that family could have gotten out.
Yeah, but
Not the point.
not the point.
Start shoveling snow on top of it.
Right, and there were a couple things there that were. I should not have given you guys that much dynamite. It's just straight up, that was like the big thing. We get into the one session, and I walked upstairs to my wife, and she's like, "How did it go?" And I'm like, "I gave them dynamite. I don't know why I gave them dynamite, but I gave them dynamite. So now they have dynamite."
I have a question about the dynamite.
Yeah.
Why was the mega delicate dynamite just sat in the museum?
So when I was planning the campaign, I wanted to have like a couple little things. I expected someone in the very first session to like, well, let's do a tour of the town and try to figure out what, get our feet under us for the town. But things kind of went off the way they typically do, and no one did that. And I wanted to have the mega delicate, like, I think it was 3 or 2 sticks of dynamite that were inside to showcase what kind of tools they used, right? So it was supposed to be like high security, and then you guys just broke through it real easy, grabbed the 2 sticks of dynamite, and that was going to be the stash of dynamite. Like 2 sticks, I'm like, yeah, it's a horror game. You guys would have to really pick and choose when you're going to use these 2 sticks of dynamite.
Bitch, I got 12.
And then you guys went to a mine, and I had not planned on there being dynamite at the mine, but you guys went up to the mine, and I think Adam specifically asked, "Is there dynamite?" And I made the call of, "Well, it's a fucking mine, so yes, there's dynamite. How much?" And then I rolled it, and I rolled 12 sticks.
Yes.
I feel like you could have added your own mechanic almost to say whether the probability of the dynamite going off, because the way we held it was we put the dynamite in a jar of snow, so now it's getting wet. The dynamite is wet, so I feel like you could almost.
But you're in the Arctic, in the winter months.
I guess so.
So your snow is.
I feel if you wanted to control it, you could have.
Yeah, I could have. There's also, how are you just carrying around 12 jars with this without them stacking?
Carefully.
Right? And then you went on a massive chase, running away from wolves with these things clinking around in the back of your backpack. And because I was trying to run the chase and do the chase effectively.
I'm going to point out the giant shadow man. You're thinking about this shit too hard.
Yeah, probably.
I think at some point you just have to suspend your disbelief with it.
Yep.
And that's my answer to all of that. At some point, but there are some points where things got too realistic. Oh, I'm running away. The dynamite is not in a small room. There's not going to be a giant concussive blast. It's not pointed in at the open doorway. And yet I'm taking fucking rock damage because this shit blew up 400 feet behind me, right? little bit too real, when then later we're blowing up buildings and nobody's rolling any dodge mechanics for it. And then later we are rolling dodge mechanics.
Yeah.
And this is not meant to be a criticism. It is just, in Call of Cthulhu, I feel like there are some times when you don't need to make rolls. And I think we rolled a lot when we didn't need to and failed as a result. But like Terry said, it encourages you to min-max to only attempt the things that you are already good at.
Yeah, it's definitely a system that is built toward a longer form campaign, longer form storytelling arc.
So if you use like library use as a skill that none of us ever tried, I don't think, right? So if
hey, it's a skill.
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you use library use and you get good at it, you might go up by 2 points in the next 5 months.
Yeah.
That's what it should be.
Whereas you guys were going up by like 10 points every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it scaled so ridiculously.
Yeah.
So Dan, what was the hardest part about running a horror campaign with gory content, only to be interrupted by players goofing off or pulling back out of the scene?
Maintaining atmosphere. It was real, like, I understand that like goofing off and having the giggles and doing that kind of stuff can be a bit of a defensive mechanism. Like, I can't handle this right now, I need to make a joke. I'm definitely guilty of that in my real life, so I understand that. But when I'm trying to kind of put this weight on your guys' shoulders of things are going weird, not just bad, but weird, it really pulled away when all of a sudden you guys throw on your aviator glasses and rip and gun and rip. Like, it really threw me.
How did it
for a
howl, Dan? How did it howl?
Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, get over it. I say baleful howl a lot. I also say in a heap a lot. It just move on.
Viscera.
And viscera.
Viscera.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So those were the hardest things to do when it came to maintaining atmosphere, is when you guys wanted to have a laugh with something. Trying to pull you guys back in. Like, I was thankful that I got to use the Ravens a little bit more to, like, if you guys were goofing off for too long, I would make one of you notice a Raven, and that would pull you back in. But that's
Good tool.
Yeah, so I just had a couple things narratively that I could pull on to bring you back in, like...
Well, use the howls as well, right?
Yeah.
And that was another one.
Yeah, there are a couple of those as well. So, those were the things I did. Adam, you've run campaigns with inspiration dice and optional sanity stats in D&D 5e. How do you think the luck and sanity compare?
I like the sanity in this better. The sanity in D&D is an optional rule, and it's messy, and they're not clearly defined. Like, it is clearly defined, but it doesn't actually apply to the gameplay. This very much does. And I think it's really good because it makes everybody feel unique. Instead of, you end up really super liking fruit or some bullshit that's in the fucking Dungeon Master's Guide or an online 100 different sanity outcomes, right, that you find in a table on Reddit or wherever. This actually makes sense. It matters, and it's specific to your character, and I really like that. As far as but I like the inspiration dice better than I like luck. I love that you can spend it. It's the same thing, but I hate that you can't earn it, right? And that, I felt, really hurt us because we got down to the end and we knew we only had a couple of sessions left, and people were just like, fuck it, I'm going to blow 30 at once, right? And because we knew that, we would do that. But other than that, we were holding on to it. We were so
you
desperate.
guys were really miserly with it at the very start of the campaign. I don't think anyone spent a luck point for the first 5 sessions.
I feel like I did.
Yeah, I spent a couple, but it was, you're right, it was...
important, like 1 or 2 off, so you would use it.
Yeah, and I think that's what you're supposed to use it for when you do occasional rolls. So here we go, we're back at this again, right? So, but I like inspiration dice better because it adds a randomness to it. But I don't think it's bad. I think it's better than the Lucky Feat in 5th edition. I'll tell you that much.
That's true. But like my problem with inspiration dice is they're another resource you have to manage. They're another, like...
What the fuck do you think luck is?
Well,
it's literally got freaking...
Yes, but it's far more... My problem with inspiration dice is, at least the way that we've run it in our groups before, and the way I've seen it run in other groups, is it's almost given out too freely. It's you get this very large pool of inspiration dice that you suddenly blow on the big bad evil guy encounter, and then everyone's back down to nothing but your superheroes in that encounter, and then you build it back up. Whereas luck is you use it, it's done. It's a resource, but it's very much more strictly moderated.
But
because
I think it comes down to the nature of the mechanics of the campaign, though. In 5th edition, Dungeons and Dragons, you're supposed to be superheroes by level 6. You're goddamn gods by level 15, right? By the time that you are into session 45 in Call of Cthulhu, the only thing that's different is now you have phobias and scars, right? So that's considering the difference there. Inspiration dice being handed out in 5th edition, I like it because you can reward people for role-playing in a system that is combat heavy. Whereas in Call of Cthulhu, you're spending luck on combat in a system that's role-play heavy. Yeah. Right? And I feel like that's the big difference. So
fair enough. And there's no really good way to level or regain it as well. Like I'm with you. I understand that. Terry, we've mentioned resource management a little bit here, and there's a lot of it in Call of Cthulhu, including ammo, and I think you were one of the guys that was really strict on your ammo, and you started boiling down near the end of the campaign. You only had a couple shots left. But there's ammo, your NPCs that you guys were managing as well, the other survivors, and yet there's no leveling at all. So what, in your opinion, was it like to play in that kind of system where there's a lot of resource management but no leveling? Really.
I mean, for items and ammo, ammo plays a much more critical role in Call of Cthulhu than D&D. Can anyone remember the last time they encountered their crossbow bolts or their arrows? Nobody gives a shit, right?
Yeah, not after level 2.
Exactly. You have brought enough with you, but in Call of Cthulhu, it's critical, but there's a trust that works both ways with this. So this is where the realism comes in. So, and you said earlier about the dynamite, where Adam said, we're at a mine, is there dynamite? And you thought, yeah, realistically there's dynamite. So you gotta have that give either way with ammunition, because otherwise you're gonna lose the trust of your players.
Yeah.
If it's like, nope, for some reason there is no dynamite at this mine, or in this armory there is no ammunition, everyone's gonna be like, fuck you, man, you just want me to have 5 rounds.
Yeah. Well, I grew up playing World of Warcraft, and like you would get missions to go out and kill like zebras, which are zebras. And
thanks for the clarification.
Yeah. And
so you would get fantasy world is where you pronounce it correctly, but in the real world you pronounce zebra as zebra. But in the game you pronounce it as zebra. Okay, fine.
No, so you would go out and you would have this quest, collect 4 zebra hooves. And you would go kill a zebra and get maybe 1 hoof from it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what the hell? And that pulled a lot of immersion away from people. Whereas here, like, if you don't have that realism, it's going to be the exact same thing. Yeah. So I'm a big fan of trying to apply as much common sense realism to my games as possible.
I think so, especially if your players are going out of the way. Say if we're doing, we took the dynamite from the mine, or whatever type of Call of Cthulhu game you're playing. We're going on a mission specifically because we want to collect ammo from the military barracks or something. You owe it to your players that there is ammo when they get there because there's supposed to be, or if there's food in the supermarket or grocery store or whatever. But for leveling,
sorry, I'm just going to stop you for a sec because you're talking about resource management and whatnot. That's the thing that I like about the money system in Call of Cthulhu, as opposed to 5th edition or Dungeons and Dragons, where you're just counting thousands of gold pieces because you just killed your 900th goblin.
Yeah.
Right, and it's unwieldy and it's out of control. You have to give a bag of holding just so that people can carry the fucking load.
Oh, I think I'm over bag of holding. I don't think I'll ever use them again.
But then in this, it's just like, are you under your threshold? Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Right? Just don't worry about your money. And I'm going to adopt that in the D&D.
Don't worry about your money, Charity.
Oh, it's all about my money.
But for the leveling system, this is where, as a player, you gotta get good with being flexible. If you're not a flexible person, this is not going to work. If you're set that your character will be good at these things and this is what I'll get better at, this is not a system for you, because you can succeed in something that you didn't expect to succeed in, and you automatically will get better in that. So your skills are going to go away maybe you didn't expect to go. Yeah. So if you're not good with that, if you're set on, I know I said min-maxing it encourages earlier, but if you're set on just maxing out specific stats, this isn't going to work for you. But the way you start your character initially, you're only pumping stuff into a select few things. If you want to be good at anything, it does encourage me maxing in that sense.
Yeah. So a little bit more in the character side of things, guys. For those of you who survived, I just want to know, what does the future hold for our characters? What does the future hold for Detective Noir?
I touched on it a little bit right at the end. He's seen enough of war, insane stuff, things blowing up, shot his own son. His wife ran off with a guy called Randy and lives in Ottawa. So he's done. So he's gone off the grid. So this was his out. Was he could say, I didn't survive this, and he said that to the military, whoever. I didn't survive this, and he's just going to disappear off to somewhere in the Yukon.
And do what?
Not police work.
Drink himself to death?
Well, I don't think he knows at this point. He just knows he doesn't want to be here. I don't think there's a way you can plan for that based on what he just stepped out of.
Yeah,
he just knows that he's done with all of this, and that comes from, in a way, that comes from me. Because I, all the time, go through this world, I don't want to live in this world with beeps and robots, and I've got 5 different fucking robots in my kitchen, everything's beeping at me and vibrating, I'm sick of artificial intelligence and smartphones. I want to go and live in Yukon myself. So I feel like that was a parallel.
I don't think your shoes are tall enough. We lost Miaca again.
But he's going off the grid.
Okay, he's going off the grid. What about Gunther?
Honestly, probably about the same as Detective Noir there. He really took a big hit after he killed Gertie. That did a serious thing. And I mean, it reflected well. I went from having 97 sanity to 66 by the end of it. He took away a third of it. I mean, I was sitting there going, oh, you're never going to screw with my sanity. And I mean, you made me eat my own words. Thank you.
Welcome.
But yeah, no, he's gonna be a recluse. He's gonna have a dislike for French detectives, probably, while having a bigger appreciation for dynamite.
I was gonna say nurses, but that's fine.
Dodge better.
She just said she doesn't like the system.
I didn't either.
The sole heir of the Flanagan estate, having lost the wealth of the Flanagan estate in the frozen north, what does the future hold for Charity Flanagan?
Well, I did leave half at home. I only brought half with me.
So you're gonna go grab the other chest.
Nice. Smart.
Yes.
Okay.
I think she was going to try to find the other chest of money, and if she was successful, she would go visit the family of Gertie and Rip and kind of do some type of memorial, and then she's gonna get the...
Rip's family's just a bunch of tombstones.
No. Mama Ripley still exists.
Oh, really?
It's all her alone on this dilapidated farm that they can't upkeep anymore. She can't afford farm hands.
Yeah.
That's why he was in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right.
And just never visit Canada again.
Whoa. Nobody ever says that.
That's very true.
For everyone around the table, what was your biggest oh shit moment in the campaign?
When I had to talk to that cultist, and everyone was all like, go. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. That was my big moment.
The councilman?
Yeah.
Obviously, when I killed Gertie, that was shit.
That's what it was.
Yeah, I don't want to do this, but I have to. Sorry. That was really it was making the bad decision knowing it was a bad decision.
Yeah.
Oh, those fucking wolves, man. The chase full of the 9,000 goddamn wolves.
Oh, that was stressful.
For no fucking reason. I was upset. You're like, yep, don't worry guys, it's one more roll. 3 rolls later, I'm still taking fucking damage from falling rocks, and there's wolves jumping at people, and I'm losing my shit, and Charity can't get up off the goddamn ground.
I just
and
scraped my knee.
Oh my god. Fuck. That was my own shit, I was having none of it.
I had to shoot a dog.
No, I chose to shoot 2 dogs.
You chose to shoot 2 dogs.
And whose bright idea was that, Terry?
Was that my idea?
Yes.
It worked though, I think, didn't it?
No.
No.
Not even.
Yeah, no, it worked. It gained
to
us
the
1 extra
story.
roll.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to shoot it in a non-lethal way. That certainly worked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it worked. They started attacking the dog instead.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
Well,
it gave you a speed bump basically.
Man, and that was the second dog I'd killed.
No, that was the first one.
That was the
That
first
was the
one.
first dog.
No, that was the first dog I killed in this game. That was the second dog he killed.
Right. My mistake.
Oh, Lord.
Megan?
I would say probably when we were running through the city and trying to escape through like the alleyways and stuff, kind of same thing where it was just very stressful. And then we were kind of like bottlenecked into that last corner and the cultists were outside.
Oh yeah.
And then I shot you in the back.
Yeah.
That whole process.
Yeah,
that was probably very stressful because that was the moment where I realized I am not a fighter and I can't do anything to help you guys. So thanks for trying to keep me alive, and maybe I'll heal you afterwards if I feel like it. So yeah.
Yeah. I think for me, the biggest oh shit moment, same situation, was where the mechanics took over and how we were doing the rolls, which was where we got pressed the time. We opened the door, they were all there. I was like, this is fucking easy. Boom, Molotov, boom, they're gone. We don't have to wait. We spent too much time talking, and then all of a sudden they were at the door.
Yep.
And then my throw mechanic is not great. So we did the roll and it didn't work. In my mind, it was simple. I was like, they're right there. They're not even looking. Boom, see you later. But it went horribly wrong. Very quickly.
Yeah.
That's when I thought I was gonna die.
Very quickly for you. It was very terrible. It was awful.
Just like hit my hand off the door frame. Dink!
Yeah.
Boom!
But that being said, I mean, we kind of touched on a little bit earlier about how you're talking about in generally killing characters for you, Dan, is not something you enjoy doing. So in this game in particular, what was it like to actually kill characters, knowing that it was going to permanently remove them from the table? And would you actually do that again?
No. Yes and no. Honestly, as much as I say I don't like killing characters, and I mean I don't. I play this game because it's a game, and I want everyone around the table to have fun. And if someone dies at the table, and they're not expecting it, because I've had players come to me before and be like, "Hey, I'm bored of this character. Can you kill him off, and I'll roll a new one. And I'll come back next week with a new one." I've had that before, and that's fine. But with the idea of having someone, if your character dies, you're getting up from the table, you're going away, we'll see you in a couple of weeks when we do a recap. That was terrifying for me because I could not process how that logistically would work out. And I honestly hope that it never came up, and might have engineered a couple things so that it didn't. Would I do it again? Honestly, I think for certain types of games, yes, it would fit. With a Call of Cthulhu game, yes, that would fit. Like if your character dies, you're done. Sorry, we'll meet up in a couple weeks and figure something else out. For a D&D game, not once would I do that. I think D&D in the magical, fantastical world that it is, with the ways of getting out of death, I wouldn't hold my punches as much, but because death is so final in this, because you're legit, you're people, you are real people in this, because death is so final, it was a lot harder to think ahead of that, and it was a threat I put over your heads that I did not really ever hope would ever come true, because that just seemed like kind of brutal. Ultimately, whereas like if you come in for 3 sessions and now you're gone for a couple weeks wondering what's going on, and it was definitely something I might do a little bit differently next time as well for the game. Like I definitely wouldn't do that with any other live play we do unless we do Call of Cthulhu again. I think this is the only realm that this would happen. But
I don't know. I could see that in like an adventure league. Like if you wanted to run a D&D tournament,
if it's adventure league, yeah,
right,
for like a weekend where you're playing 4 or 5 sessions in a weekend, yes. But if you're doing a long-term campaign and someone puts in an entire evening building their character around a table in a session 0, no.
I figure if I can kick you off the table for Risk, I can kick you off the table for a evening's worth of gaming.
Yeah.
Right? But I think you're right. When
there's another game and then another game.
When you've got weeks of gaming ahead of you, to purposefully deprive someone of that, thinking that you might be responsible as the keeper.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, that was no bueno for me.
I don't think like that. I think it comes down to the social contract. We said right from the very start, if you die, you're out.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm still in. Let's go.
Yeah.
Everybody knew. But if you put that on somebody suddenly, if somebody, if we came to the game and then someone died, they're like, yes, awkward, you can't come back. Then it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But if you go into it, everyone knows where they stand.
It's definitely something, if I did do it in another game, it would be like
predetermined.
Point number 2
Yeah.
on the session 0 checklist of things we're talking about. Right?
Wait, number 1 being don't be a dick?
Number 1 being don't be a dick.
Okay.
Right?
Number 3
would
is
it-
wear pants.
No, that's like number 6.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought that was optional.
That's our optional.
So I do have a question. We've talked a lot about our characters. We've talked a lot about the mechanics. We're wrapping up this final recap episode. I really want to know, what are you guys going to do differently the next time you play Call of Cthulhu? Like, if there's one thing you will do differently, what would it be?
I think I would speak to the GM more initially about items that I'm taking with me, starter items.
Yeah.
I think are going to be critical, and things kept coming up that I think it would have been better if I had this.
I really don't like the buying equipment with character creation system Call of Cthulhu.
Yeah,
Now that we're bringing it up,
but I think
because
if
it's just like,
anything-
if it's feasible that your character has it, they can have
yeah,
it.
I
Like,
think if-
I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons for years. I'm carrying around things like rope and a hook, and
I think it's feasible that the GM can just say, hey, yeah, like you said, if it's realistic that you have it, you can totally have it. And I don't think I would try and spread my stats out as much. I would know what my thing is, what I can do. Hey, this is what I offer the party. This is what I'm good at. And I would go with it that way. I would just say, this is the system that I would min-max in. Everybody knows where I stand. This is my thing. Instead of everybody having 22 perception, or whatever the Call of Cthulhu equivalent is.
yeah, an 80.
Yeah.
Megan?
So I kind of said something similar along the lines of I would restate like what my items are, because I think that was my biggest cutthroat at the beginning, because I wasn't here for the character creation piece of it, so I just came in the game without items. So that was a big kind of like, I would just redo that. And I did knock on the percentile like system just because it kind of made me feel like as a nurse it didn't work, but I feel like I would just go emotionally in this game with the understanding that my occupation isn't necessarily what I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am a human being and I have all these other capabilities that I could do. So I would go into it with a different mindset.
And with the different campaign, I like, one of the things I would do as a keeper, if I was to run it again, one thing I'd do differently is really open up the availability of different paths for you guys to go. This was fairly railroaded, whereas if it was a little bit more sandbox, you guys would have been able to use some other skills like library use and those things a little bit more fully.
Yeah.
Right? Being able to actually, we never once rolled psychoanalysis. We never once rolled library use. We never once, I think we once rolled library use. Like, there are so many other different mechanics in the game. If you built a more well-rounded character for a longer campaign, it would do better for you. But for a situation like this, I think we've talked about this before as well, it's a kind of a one-shot min-max.
I would love this game actually in an urban environment. Say if you're going to stick with the 20s, I love the idea of night buses and trams and having NPCs all over, especially if it's over months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
If you're starting to put pieces together, but hey, we know Ted who works down the library downtown, let's all head down there, but on the way there something's happening. I would love this if it was played in an urban environment.
Yeah.
Dave?
I would look at my skills differently. And kind of reallocate how I did it. I mean, I was a big game hunter, and when we started, I was 60% proficient with a rifle. Like, it just, I mean, that was my mistake going into it, but that's one of the things I'd really like a redo on and you know, have another look at.
Cool. Miaca?
Yeah, I agree with Dave. I would like pay more attention to my skills a little bit more, and definitely put points into spot hidden, because
You never saw anything. You never saw anything.
But
I was in my own little world.
Does that take us back to the idea of you don't have to roll for every single time you're looking for something?
Yes. Yeah.
It's definitively spot hidden, and that should have been our clue when we sat down in session 1 to say this isn't see, this isn't look, this isn't observe or perception. It is spot hidden.
You're spotting
Yeah.
something that's hidden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's more search than anything else, right?
Yeah. Well, I really wanted to. I wanted to use spot hidden as a way to add to atmosphere as well. Like, if you guys, I made you roll spot hidden whenever there was a chance for you guys to see something unique, which is a different view of, like, it's a very Dungeons and Dragons view of how spot hidden is supposed to work. But I think this Call of Cthulhu leans on what will happen when you fail more than what will happen when you succeed. Whereas D&D happens more what will happen when you succeed more than what will happen when you fail. So if we ran it with the idea that if it's something anyone could see, fine, whatever. But I would make you roll if there was something additional, right? Like if seeing the crows, that's when I was making you roll spot hiddens. And then further beyond that, seeing the aurora actively change pattern, which no one spent any time like really investigating the aurora. But the aurora was, this is something that I really hoped was addressed but wasn't, but was actually working its way into Inuit formations of letters and stuff like that in the skies above you. And it was supposed to add to this fact that this area was cursed. Right?
Where was your other language rolls for that one, Charity?
Right?
She was trying to use spot hidden.
But yeah, if we do more of the, you know, it's
I think I see it.
it's if anything's just a standard human will be able to catch it. It's just a success, move on. Yeah, but if you guys wanted to amplify that success in any way, shape, or form, you could volunteer. Hey, can I roll this to see if there's maybe something else here? Mm-hmm. Right? I think there's a lot more weight on the player in Call of Cthulhu to determine what the action is, and the keeper is just kind of supposed to sit there with his notes and
almost more of a referee than
he's a referee, and he's a bookkeeper, right? Like he's sitting there and it's like, oh, you have determined this piece of information. 1 second, here's this piece of information. What do you want to do next? And just waits with his book of information, and you guys actually have to figure it out, right? Whereas with D&D, it's kind of flashed in your face with neon lights and fireworks, usually.
I love fireworks.
Yay! Does anyone have any final thoughts on the game? How the campaign went?
I would definitely play it again. I'd play it in different ages, different eras, different styles of horror. But I actually love it. I think I can play this game a lot. And in some ways, I like it more than Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I really like this game.
Hot take.
I really like this game.
I'm with Terry on this one. I like the D100 system a lot better than the D20 system.
Yeah.
It's a lot more simple. It's a lot more streamlined. And, I mean, I play Dungeons and Dragons because I like combat, but I do it for the story. This is far more story-driven than Dungeons and Dragons is. And, I mean, it's better.
Yeah, it's built towards storytelling. So if you want a storytelling game, this is what it's supposed to do, right? Yeah. So I would play it again. Again, same thing. I'd probably do a different setting and a different kind of...
Yeah. I like the idea of some sort of Walking Dead zombie apocalypse.
I like the horror aspect though, so I agree, like zombie apocalypse one that would fit really well, because I feel like the system is also geared towards that panic system and trying to do things really quickly and doing things really fast. Yeah.
So I feel like you do some sort of gritty type Dracula type thing as well, where it won't be as fantasy like as like Curse of Strahd.
I'm thinking, do you guys know like Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Shit too? This would be really good for that, or people slowly being replaced by replicas and shit. Like that's what this system
like
feels
mystery
like.
horror.
Yeah. I don't know. My final thoughts is I want to DM it. I want to sit there and I want to know the rules in and out. That's me, but I want to sit down and play with the horror, because Dan used to go, I explained tendons and Miaca got squirmy. I'm like, yes, but let me go deeper. I want to give everyone nightmares. This is the opportunity. I am now convinced off of what you've done here, Dan. This is the horror game.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitively, this mechanically is the game to scare your players. We say
you truly feel vulnerable.
Yeah. And we've said in the past, it's hard to be scared in D&D.
Yeah, because there's always a whim if it's going to work out. And even
or I'll just roll up my next character.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. I even remember when we were sitting at the table in our old campaign where, like, I remember your character died, Terry, and then you said, I've got like 7 more in my head, it's fine. You know what I mean? Like, so you're like ready to go. You're already thinking of your next character. Yeah. Whereas in this game, we came in with the precursor of like, we can't do that, right?
Yeah, much more invested, Honestly, I would run a Curse of Strahd type game with this system.
Yeah.
Where it wouldn't be all like as fantastic and high powered as Curse of Strahd is, but a gritty type of Dracula game would be really good, I think.
Miaca?
My final thoughts. I had a very good time.
Thanks, Charity. Can you lean closer and say into the microphone? God fucking damn.
Oh, did I? I had a very good time. No,
Miaca can't help it, she's foreign.
This is true.
So, there's one thing I do want to point out. Like, we keep on saying, this is the horror game. And I completely agree. But we are kind of saying, the 1920s is the way it's kind of designed to be built in. But I would say there are many, many different supplements out there for any era you guys want to play in. Everybody out there, they're not sponsoring this, but I'm going to plug them anyways. The creators of Call of Cthulhu actually have supplements out there. If you want to play medieval, if you want to play zombie apocalypse, if you want to play sci-fi, if you want to play modern, if you want to play I said zombie apocalypse already, but like any of these other ones, if you want to play a Vernian style of Call of Cthulhu where you're doing like 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea, there's supplements out there for you. So go to chaosium.com. That is their website. This is where you could get all of this information. They also have a free kind of quick start guide to give it a test, which comes with a module. Go run it, see if you like this system for yourselves, and hit us up on social media with your guys' thoughts on it. And yeah, I'm really interested in maybe seeing us play this again with a different kind of setting, maybe something more modern, zombie apocalypse. Adam?
Yes. Stay tuned.
Yeah. So, guys, those of you in the room with me now, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for really committing and really diving in and role-playing well.
Thank you, Dan. I know this was a challenge for you, and you were stressed about this the whole time. And now you have like a month and a half of editing, so also fuck you, Dan.
Woohoo!
So.
Yeah.
That's your reward.
Yeah.
Dan, you did a great job, man.
Yeah,
Thank
honestly, you really did.
Absolutely.
I enjoyed myself.
And we
as
do
I
not
said.
make it easy.
No.
Literally nobody at this table makes it easy.
And
Megan was all right. Like I have no
she
qualms.
wasn't. Fuck off.
And everyone, I like to point out,
is sat next
Megan's
to her.
character was the only one without a fucking gimmick. You had your little fucking shoes and click, 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 click. You had your old fucking dynamite. No, dude. Your fucking gun, and you're
started
walking
the
around with
shoes.
your pile of money.
I never said the shoes. You said the shoes.
You started with the shoes.
You gave me the dynamite.
I'm just here to be a nurse.
Megan's been a nightmare ever since we started, so don't even.
But seriously, Dan, any one of us except for probably Miaca would tell you that you did a shitty job if you did.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and you did a. Oh, okay,
It's
you want to
because
tell
you're a
us?
sweetheart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But honestly, this was fantastic. Thank you very much for this.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you.
I had so much fun this summer.
I want to run this as well.
You want to do the next round?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'll do the next.
I'm down to play that.
Yeah, we'll organize when we do it.
Is it going to be like British horror? So it's only going to be like
London.
Oh,
It's gonna be
there's Victorian London.
like
There-
Ripper Street, Jack the Ripper
There
type.
is a
There you go.
Victorian London supplement.
Marvelous. Yeah, we'll do like a Ripper Street type thing.
everyone start working on your Cockney accents just to piss off
Oh.
Jeremy.
I feel terrible. It's gonna drive me
They don't know
insane.
which one of us said that.
It's gonna drive me insane.
So
As we just be the visiting Canadians.
as we close this out, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much, the audience, for really tuning in and experiencing this with us, going on the ride with us here. If you guys want to get a hold of any of us here around the table, you can send us an email at itsamimic@gmail.com. Fuck Dave. God damn.
No, info at it's a mimic.
info@itsamimic.com. You can reach us on Instagram at It's a Mimic. You could reach us on Twitter at It's a Mimic D&D and on Facebook at the It's a Mimic page. It has been an honor to run this for you guys. I'm looking forward to the next one we play, where I will probably play a little just kind of short, vaguely Irish character.
I imagine so.
Yeah.
Are you gonna play a leprechaun? Please play a leprechaun.
He'll end up
If
being
we're in
small.
Victorian London, 100%, I will play a leprechaun.
Yeah, but you'll end up coming from the Bronx by the end of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. So, thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
This has been an It's a Mimic production. You can find more quality content on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, or at www.itsamimic.com.